Welcome back. In this episode, Democrats crash out as CNN gives Trump another win. CNN is finally forced to admit gas prices are down and Black Friday is booming under President Trump. Dr. Vin Gupta and Democrat governors like Tim Walz suddenly discover Trump's cognitive decline after years of calling Biden high functioning. Leftists and Democrat politicians smear the National Guard and ICE, while our troops bleed in DC and our cities descend into chaos, and new terror plots and Somali fraud stories blow up Biden's vet them all, trust us narrative. Stay with me all the way to the end because I'll be responding to your comments in the chat live and giving my final common sense take on every single one of these stories. And don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and share this video. Let's get started with our first story. CNN is doing the unthinkable. You don't give Trump any credit. Let's listen to their report.
This morning, some states seeing gas prices below $3 for the first time in years. Let's get to CNN's Matt Egan for the good news on this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to finally be here with some good news on the cost of living front. So for the first time in 4.5 years, gas prices are averaging $3 a gallon nationally, according to AAA, down by 7 cents in just the past week. Gas prices were low a year ago as well, but they're even cheaper now. This is encouraging to see because late last month there was a period where gas prices were actually higher this year than last year, but that has reversed again, and now we've just fractions of a penny away from breaking below $3 a gallon. Now, as you mentioned, we've got 20 states across the country where the average is actually less than $2.75 a gallon, including North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Colorado as well. Certainly nice to see this. Why is this happening? Well, it all comes down, of course, to oil prices, right? Oil prices are about $59 a barrel this morning. You look back in history on December 1, 3 years ago, we're looking at $81 a barrel for oil, $67 even last year. So significantly cheaper. And that's because right now, supply of oil continues to outpace demand. It's U.S. supply. Production in the U.S. is at all-time highs. It's higher than last year, but only a little bit higher. OPEC is the big story, though, right? Saudi-led OPEC, they are ramping up production substantially this year. They've signaled that they plan to pause those output hikes next year. But for now, look, this is a good story when it comes to the affordability crisis. Gasoline, it's relatively cheap.
All right.
Oh, my goodness. These guys can't even just say Trump's drill, baby drill approach worked. Like they've managed to just avoid giving Trump any credit. Now contrast CNN's tone now with all those years of doom and gloom about Trump's catastrophic economy. Point out how lower gas prices and record spending are happening despite the constant sabotage, lawfare, and continued fear campaigns supported by outlets like CNN and TDSBC. They will not give him any credit, but you and I know that Trump's drill, baby drill program is working because, according to them, supply is outpacing demand. And Trump said it on the campaign trail. As long as the cost of energy goes down, then it's going to affect the cost of living across board. They said that his plans wouldn't work, and now we can see it playing out. Now, if this is Trump destroying democracy, okay, with prices going down and cost of living essentially trending downwards, why are regular Americans finally catching a break at the pump in these stores if Trump is such a destructive force to democracy? Okay, tie your past coverage, okay, or the things you've seen in the past with all the experts, with everything that you've seen happening on the news, with what's going on now, and see how wrong they've been again and again on Trump's economic record. Okay, now we're going to be following these trends, and of course, there's also the account coming from I think Fox News, because Black Friday just took place, and they reported record spending.
The fact is that we just had the best Black Friday that we've ever seen. And it's not just because people are out there, taking debt on their credit cards. It's because incomes are way up under President Trump. They dropped about $3,000 a person, $6,000 a family under Joe Biden. And it's up $1,500 a person so far this year. And with all that extra money and with the government shutdown over so people feel comfortable going back to stores, that we're seeing a really blowout, Thanksgiving and Christmas coming our way. I think all the retailers expect that both online and in-store sales are going to be the highest we've ever seen. And the point is that that's happening even though inflation is way, way down under President Trump. And it was 5-10% under Biden, and right now it's running at about 2.5%. And it's way lower than wage growth. Right? And so people's incomes are going up by way more than inflation. And that's why we're seeing these blowout sales.
Now, remember when they said Trump will crash the stock market? They made all those predictions. The experts came on to scare you, to tell you that Trump is going to destroy the economy. Well, does this look like the economy is destroyed? All right. Now, they also said, well, Trump is cutting taxes for only the rich. He's only helping the rich. Well, it turns out that regular Americans like you are now able to have more to get gifts and to spend on their loved ones. So I assume that the common sense take, if anyone is actually processing this fairly, is that if the dangerous dictator and economic illiterate the media warned us about keeps delivering lower gas prices and record consumer spending, maybe the problem isn't Trump, okay? Maybe the problem is the media and the Democrats that would rather be wrong forever than admit that he's doing something right that is good for normal Americans like you. So let me know in the chat, do you think CNN is reporting this? Because it's shocking that they're actually reporting this. But I did point out that they refused to give Trump any credit. They pointed to market dynamics, but not to the fact that his policies are working. But are they reporting this because they've finally accepted reality? Are they warming up to Trump's policies, or because they're afraid of losing credibility with their own audience? Let me know in the chat. Now, while CNN is quietly admitting Trump's economy is working, their friends over at TDSBC and Democrat Governor Tim Walz are trying a new strategy. If you can't argue with the numbers, attack Trump's brain. Okay, so let's watch their outlandish report.
Cardiovascularly, he's in excellent shape. I'm a pulmonologist. I see this all the time in octogenarians. I think he's actually quite high functioning as an octogenarian and keeping up that schedule. And so, just from this is a subjective conversation. Zeke is offering his opinion. I can tell you what I see in my own clinic, and what I see clinically, I think Joe Biden is actually quite robust.
So this is Dr. Vin Gupta from MSNBC or TDSBC. He's letting the whole world know that President Joe Biden is in optimal health for an octogenarian. He's giving all of the pointers to say that there's nothing to see here. Seeing him fall up the stairs, not a problem. He's fine. He's totally okay. And then when it comes to his reporting, because this isn't a doctor, he's just a media personality at this point. Because if you could see what was going on with President Joe Biden and still give him a clean bill of health, then you're clearly not a doctor anymore.
Relative to what we see normal aging at 81.
But it's clear that there's age-related cognitive decline. I mean, that's obvious. His response to somebody fainting in the Oval Office really conveyed that. He didn't show any signs of concern. He didn't really do anything. He was slow to respond. And that slowness and fatigue you're seeing more and more in his public events.
Sorry. So according to Dr. Vin Gupta, President Trump, surrounded by Secret Service personnel and other people who could have taken action to help the person who fainted, is expecting President Trump to rip off his suit and get down on all fours and begin to give the guy CPR. Okay, that is Dr. Vin Gupta's assessment. All right. So as far as he's concerned, President Trump allowing people who are better trained at helping someone who's fainted shows that he is in cognitive decline. Interesting.
That's one. Two, he's confused a lot. Three, he sometimes mumbles sort of incoherent nonsense when he's asked a question in the press pool in the Oval Office. So all these things, when this constellation of just him being him. Imagine if President Biden did any of those things.
President Biden, if he did any of the things you described, he wouldn't be complaining. Okay, because President Trump has given lengthy interviews with the press, mumbling incoherently, according to him, might be an issue with their hearing or with their media equipment, because I hear him just fine whenever he's speaking. I understand perfectly what he's saying. So if Dr. Vin Gupta is confused about what President Trump is saying, then maybe he needs to see someone about his hearing. Now, here's Tim Walz trying to pile on this whole Trump is losing it bandwagon.
Part of your initial response to President Trump's post was to call for him to release the results of his MRI. And I want to give you a chance to give our viewers exactly a sense of what you mean. What exactly were you suggesting by that, Governor?
Well, here we got a guy on Thanksgiving where we spent time with our families, we ate, we played Yahtzee, we cheered for football or whatever. This guy is apparently in a room ranting about everything else. This is not normal behavior.
So President Trump is working while you guys are playing with your family. And what the Democrats want you to believe is he's ranting. He's ranting about the fact that an immigrant who was welcomed into the country killed an American service person, slaughtered an American, has another one in critical condition. I'm not sure what his condition is right now as at the time of this live stream. But you have two Americans attacked by an immigrant that was welcomed with open arms. And as far as the Democrats are concerned, a president being visibly angry about what happened to American citizens on U.S. soil being attacked by an immigrant that was brought in unvetted by the Biden administration is ranting. So whenever you hear the Democrats say these things, it gives you a clear picture of what they really think about you.
It is not healthy. And presidents throughout time have released a couple things. They've released their tax returns, not Donald Trump, and they've released their medical records, not Donald Trump. And look, the MRI is one thing, but I think what's most concerning about this is, as your viewers out there are listening, has anyone in the history of the world ever have an MRI assigned to them and have no idea what it was for, as he says? So look, it's clear the president's fading physically, I think.
So according to Tim Walz, President Trump should also be, adding to what Dr. Vin Gupta said. President Trump isn't just supposed to be a trained emergency services expert, okay, ripping off his suit and tie to help anyone who faints, in his audience. Okay, when you have other people who are better skilled at doing that, who could help that situation, because if he tried to get in the way, trying to play the hero, he wouldn't be helping anyone. Now, Tim Walz wants us to believe that President Trump should also be a trained neurosurgeon to be able to look at the MRI and say what the MRI says about his condition. He only says what the doctors told him. He's doing very well. He's doing fine. Now, with all of the craziness, the craziness that we see from the Democrat Party, all right, we can easily tell that they are full of it. Joe Biden showed clear signs of cognitive decline, walking off stage, not knowing where he was, going left when he should be going right, falling up the stairs. That one, we're never going to forget that. We're always going to remind you guys that he kept falling upstairs. All of this happens, and not for one day did you see MSNBC or Governor Tim Walz step in front of a camera to demand that the president presents or reveals his MRI. And then him saying that President Trump didn't release his tax returns. Believe me, if President Trump had irregularities with his tax, the IRS would have been all over him during the 2016 campaign. Okay? So let's just not play these games that the Democrats want us to play. All right? Play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. There's no point. All right? There's clearly a double standard between these guys. Biden forgot names, locations, dates, and when he did that, oh, he's robust and high functioning. Trump speaks forcefully and suddenly he's ranting and he's in cognitive decline. All right. Note how all the health scares, okay, there's a mark on his arm, his foot looks swollen. It suddenly becomes, look, there's something wrong with President Trump. All of the obvious things that happened with Joe Biden, nothing to see here. All right. Now, who put Dr. Gupta and Waltz up to this line of attack? Clearly, it's a Democrat strategy. We know it, okay, because the TDSBC is clearly the propaganda arm of the Democrat Party. So we know that, all right? We know it's a coordinated messaging pivot. Now that Trump is winning on the economic front, okay, the numbers are in and everybody can see that he's winning, they need to distract from that and say, look, Trump is losing it, all right? He's insane. They need to distract you from the fact that 2 servicemen were shot in the head by an immigrant that they let in. They need to distract you. So what's the latest thing they want you to focus on? Trump is insane. Trump is losing it. All right. Now, let's make all of this about common sense, not about being partisan. All right. If you need TV doctors and partisan governors to convince you that the guy holding 2-hour rallies and press conferences is in decline, while the man getting walked off stage and losing his train of thought is robust, the issue isn't Trump's brain, okay? It's the gaslighting. Everyone knows it, you know it, and I know it. Now, who do you think looks more mentally sharp right now? Trump, who's giving 2-hour speeches, winning on the economy with no teleprompter, or the Democrats who keep melting down on live TV? Let me know in the chat. The chat is open. Let me know what you think. Now, before we get to the next story, and the story is really interesting, okay, because when the health narrative for Donald Trump saying that he is in decline doesn't land, they move on to something even uglier, attacking the men and women in uniform who protect the United States. The National Guard, ICE, and anyone who enforces the law is under attack right now. Let's look at what they are saying about the troops and officers. But before we talk about that, if you like this easygoing tone of my commentary and of the news without all the outrage and all the cussing and everything, please consider liking this video and subscribing. And if you don't do anything but watch and chat, I'm grateful that you're here to watch. Thank you for being here and thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. Now, the National Guard is in mourning. Okay, one of their own was shot in the head. And what do Democrats do? What do leftists do? The leftists who vote Democrats, okay, and they are Democrats, what do? They stand on their soapboxes, slandering the National Guard, waving pro-Palestine flags days after Sarah Beckstrom was killed.
We have a message. I have a message for Trump and Landry from all of us. And that is, if you want to make New Orleans the center of repression, we are going to make it the center of resistance. If you want to take our brothers and sisters off the streets, if you want to kidnap immigrants, if you want to displace our people, we are going to displace you. That's what we need in this country. We need a socialist system.
They've said the quiet part out loud. They've been saying it and saying it and saying it. And whenever they're called out, they say, no, that's not what we mean. We mean democratic socialism. When they say these things, they simply mean communism. It's really very simple. Look, we need to stop playing these games that they want us to think that they're playing. They want us to think that they're being humanitarian, they're being kind, they're being nice. But whenever we look under the hood, it's always hateful rhetoric, a call to violence, attacking men and women in uniform. All right. Now, like we can watch this till the cows come home. It's just more of the same. If you continue kidnapping our brothers and sisters, who are your brothers and sisters? People who broke into the country illegally. They weren't given visas. They broke through the border, and then they were accepted with open arms by a Democrat administration who takes care of them more than they take care of the American citizens. All right. All right. So I'm going to keep the chat coming. All right. Spot 3 end plays. I'm going to be jumping on. I'm going to be bringing on your chat, and I'll be responding to your chat. So keep the chat coming. All right. Now, this footage from New Orleans, it isn't just the only one out there. We have the usual suspects, the Democrat talking heads out there saying things like this.
I mean, the fact that the president's come out and says he's going to review every green card holder from 19 countries of concern, that he has stopped certain immigrants from countries already that again make sweeping generalizations about countries that shouldn't have every individual assumed to be dangerous to admit to the United States. We need to make sure that we have tight and appropriate and proper vetting. If there were gaps that admitted this person, they would have failed over multiple levels of gaps, and this individual was trusted enough to participate in assisting our military during the war in Afghanistan. So I just think, the president looks everywhere except inward to blame his own policies. We need to make sure that we don't have our military deployed in our cities where handling law enforcement responsibilities.
So the Democrats blame President Trump of looking everywhere but at his own policies, while they themselves look everywhere but the problems that they created. Crime in blue cities is sky high. They refuse to handle crime while their budgets for law enforcement keep going up and up. It's just like the Department of Education. All right. The Department of Education spends more per student than any other country in the world, but is failing. I think it scores around, well, I don't want to give you guys numbers that I haven't looked up, but it's really bad. And then they think that we should give them a pat on the back to say, well, you guys are doing a great job because you guys are getting all the funding you need, and you're complaining that you need even more funding. So we just give you a pat on the back to say, well, you're trying. Right? That's insane. That's insanity, if you ask me. All right. Now, people like her add to the noise and try to make you think that what they're saying is accurate. Okay, President Trump should look to his own policies. This guy was let in under a Biden administration that staged a disastrous exit from Afghanistan. This guy was one of those people brought into the country. He murders an American citizen, one in critical condition, and all she can think of is Trump bad. Okay, this is not one of the questions I was meaning to ask, but do you think that their brains are broken, or are they just evil people? Right? Can't you just take a break from the Trump hate and point to the elephant in the room? They attacked an American citizen. You need to be sure the people in your country are the right kind of people you need in the country. It's really very simple. All right. Now, so let me finish this segment. I love to engage the chat, but let me finish this segment, because if I jump into the chat, I'm concerned that I'm going to just start ranting again, because it's infuriating to see the double standards and the hypocrisy in real time. Now, here's what the NYPD had to deal with in New York when anti-ICE mobs began to brawl with them outside of a federal building. Let's watch. Now, these are the people who want you to believe that they are peace-loving, you know, good feelings people. They want you to believe that they want the best for the country. But every time law enforcement is trying to enforce the law, they jump into the streets and begin to flip them the bird and call them pigs and the F word. And it is just it's embarrassing to watch, but also infuriating. Now, the same guys who are like because these are the same guys who jump out to say, save the planet, save the planet. But when they don't get their way, they trash the city. You know, this reminds me of children throwing a temper tantrum. You don't get what you want, you fall on the floor and kick your arms and legs out and lash out and then trash the place. The Democrats are essentially a party of children. Okay, it's just sad. Okay, they've continued to slander ICE and the National Guard, calling them slave patrols, terrorizers. They claim that they attack Americans. They claim that they kidnap immigrants. They don't say illegal. They say immigrants are being kidnapped and disappeared. They call what Trump is asking them to do illegal orders when these things are backed by federal laws that the Democrats put in place under Bill Clinton. Okay? Now we see mobs physically attacking ICE, brawling with police, mocking the National Guard just days after one of them was killed. These people are heartless. Let's just call it what it is. They are heartless. They don't mean well for the country. We just need to look in their face and tell them who they are based on the way they're behaving and the words they're using. All right. Now, ICE, National Guard, anyone in uniform, including the NYPD, or any PD of the area that is experiencing these protests or riots, continue to be called villains, the Gestapo. They continue to be treated like criminals because they are enforcing federal law. Meanwhile, the actual criminals and terrorists are being protected by these people. Okay? So, do they really want us to believe that they are the good guys? All right? If we can't even support troops patrolling American streets after multiple terror threats, and even days after the murder of one of these uniformed patriots protecting American citizens, then what message does that send to the enemies of the United States? Okay, that's the question that's going on in my head right now. All right, so common sense, okay, because people want to blame Trump. They want it to be about, Trump bad. Let's have a common sense conversation and look at this in a common sense way. Okay, if you cheer mobs who attack ICE, block police from doing their jobs, and call the National Guard a problem or the Gestapo, you're not fighting for justice. You're making it easier for criminals and terrorists to come into the United States and operate while people sworn to protect American citizens are left out high and dry and vulnerable. All right. So let me know in the chat. Do you think that this kind of rhetoric from politicians and activists is directly encouraging attacks on the National Guard, ICE, Border Patrol, or is it just free speech with no consequences? All right. Let me know in the chat. Now, I'm going to be responding to the chat shortly. All right. Because the final segment is a whopper. We're going to be looking at the effect of the shooting on Afghan refugees, new vetting policies that Trump is speaking about, and how they're all crashing out about it, and Somali fraud and illegal benefits. So let's jump into the chat because I see some comments in the chat, and I don't want to ignore the chat. So Spa 3N Plays 1 says, agreed, we need to stop being soft. All right. Now, let me know if you agree with him. or her. I don't know if you're a him or a her. So I have kids. I love my kids. But whenever any of my kids acts out, my youngest loves to, okay, you're him, thanks. So let's know what you think about his take. Because back to my kids, when the youngest, he loves martial arts. He's 3, and he watches videos about martial arts, about kids cartoons and YouTube videos that kids make about being ninjas and so on. He loves stuff like that. But the side effect of that is he's also a very masculine 3-year-old boy. So he tests out his new skills on his sister, who is 9. And she keeps crying that he's punching her and so on. And every time we try to correct him, he feels like he owns the place, right? I love him, but sometimes he needs a little spank on the backside to get that reset, done in his brain. Like, you don't hit girls, okay? So many times we look at what the Democrats want everyone to do with these illegal criminals coming in, assaulting American girls, okay, whether they are black, white, yellow, green, they are American girls. If they are living in the United States, within the borders of the United States, and they are legal immigrants, okay, they are also being assaulted too. You should be outraged about them doing that, not outraged that the law is being enforced on these monsters. And of course, they're doing their very best to bend over backwards to blame the shooting of Sarah on President Trump, while it has Biden and the Democrats' fingerprints all over it. All right, so let me know what you think about his comment. I'm going to keep going through his comments because he's the only one making all the comments. Guys, don't let Sparks 3N Plays hog the comment section, okay, or the chat. So let me know your thoughts about this. Yeah, I live in Cali and it's horrible. And they are repeating what the Whig Party did and made their party circle around hating one man. In the end, it will turn out horrible for them. Well, let's hope that more people begin to have a common sense take on what we're seeing play out in real time. The sad thing for a lot of people is that they don't wake up until the whole country is on fire, and they find out that the things that they claim that they wanted were the things that destroyed their country. Okay, we heard that that young lady saying that what you need in the United States is socialism. Why don't you go on a tour of every socialist country in the world and see what socialism has done to those countries? So whenever people tell you that they want good things to happen for everyone, and then they start out with saying that socialism is the answer, then you know that that person doesn't know what they're talking about. They're ignorant or they're evil. One of the two. There is no in between. If you're ignorant, go get an education, watch a few YouTube videos. If you have an American passport, visit some socialist countries. Heck, go to North Korea. Yeah, go to North Korea and tell them about freedom of speech, and they'll tell you what the inside of a jail cell looks like. Okay, that's the way it works in socialist countries. You can't live in a country that is affording you the freedoms with which you take advantage of to attack that country and to attack the very freedoms that you've been given. Because once you're under a socialist government, those freedoms go away. That's the way it always works. All right, that's history. Man, we should start putting these kids in first grade again. Yes, I agree. They act like children. All these guys do is go out in public and throw tantrums. That's all they do. And you know what? I don't know about you. I'm sick of it. I am sick of it. All right. Now, I have my convictions, and I can share my convictions with you, and we can have an argument or a conversation around those convictions. But you don't have the right to inconvenience me by blocking the street, terrorizing law enforcement so that they focus on you while you're crashing out and breaking things, while the actual criminals are out there, committing crimes. The National Guard is there, the Border Patrol and ICE are there to capture criminals. And you guys decide to surge the ICE facility, attack Border Patrol in the streets, and keep them from doing their job. So left to me, I would say, look, either put them in first grade again, or once they step over the line, even by an inch, arrest them. I mean, many of them have never suffered the consequences of their stupidity, so they keep doing these stupid things. All right, so let's just, that's me, okay? That's just me. And as an immigrant, I have said repeatedly on this show, I don't think that any first-generation immigrant should run for office because there's too much baggage from the third world, okay? We just come in and we're like, why is all this craziness happening? Beat up everyone, okay? That's, honestly, that's like, we still have to kind of take out those programming, tendencies that we picked up from living in third world regimes, all right? We just think, why all the insanity, okay? The police should just, lay out some consequences. So I love the United States. I believe that the rights and the laws that built up the United States are good, not perfect, but they're good enough to build the greatest country in the world. It should be respected. The Constitution should be respected. It should be revered, and it should be upheld. Anyone who hates the liberties that the Constitution affords every American citizen, that person hates the country and should be, shamed by the society. Okay, and if they commit crimes, they should bear the consequences. All right, the Democrats, common sense out the window since 1776. Spartan plays. Nicely played. Nicely played, guy. Nicely played. I like that. All right, so let's jump into the fourth story. Again, keep the chats coming. Let me know your thoughts as we go through the stories. All right. Now, we have the fallout from the shooting of the National Guard last week. And, or was it 2 weekends ago? A lot has happened in just 1 week. A lot has happened. So sometimes you're thinking about it being just a short time away, but a lot has happened. Now, we're barely through the shooting of Sarah. And then we get this report that an Afghan refugee in Fort Worth was plotting a bomb attack.
Well, this just in, we have a Fox News alert from Brooke Taylor. You won't believe this. DHS is confirming that an Afghan national was arrested Tuesday after posting a video of himself on TikTok indicating he was building a bomb with an intended target of the Fort Worth area.
Why are these people still in the country? Look, I agree with due process. But whenever you find an immigrant, and dude, if that immigrant is proven to be engaging in activity that puts the lives of natural-born American citizens and other law-abiding immigrants in the country at risk, pick him up, revoke his papers, ship him back to the country he came from. I don't even want him to be kept in the penal system. Okay, he's taking up American taxpayer dollars to keep him fed and housed and clothed and taken care of in the penal system. Get him out of the country. All right, it's really that simple. I don't know how hard can that be.
Mohammed Dawood Al-Okazai is charged at the state level with making a terroristic threat. According to DHS, listen to this. He came to the United States as part of Operation Allies Welcome. So here you have it. This happened Tuesday.
Oh, wow. I am surprised. Oh, I am so shocked. Really? Really? I am shocked. Great. And then those jokers on TDSBC and CNN want us to believe that all of this is Trump's fault. Okay.
Texas Department of Public Safety. This is a second Afghan national, second one this week. Operation Allies Welcome. He had a terror plot. We know it comes the same week that deranged individual, that alleged assassin, took out 2 of our heroic National Guard, came here on the same program, Operation Allies Welcome, a program that we were assured time and time again by Mayorkas, by Jen Psaki, by Joe Biden himself was safe and secure. But here we have a second data point in 1 week that it was not safe, it was not secure. And we've got to look very hard at this program as President Trump is vowing to make change.
President Trump has vowed to make changes. The Democrats are swearing that that it's a racist move by President Trump. Here's another video. Look, you continue to see these videos, and the question I ask, and if you can't tell from my accent, I'm an immigrant. I keep asking, so why are they still here? Why are they still here? Why haven't you just picked them up? Investigation done. They did it. Strip them of their papers, ship them out. Of course, Democrats are going to fly over to the countries they've been shipped to go on a pity tour. Oh, look at this Texas man, this Texas man or Fort Worth man who was shipped out without due process.
The Biden administration has actually said is that they did vet these people in third-party countries before coming into the United States. But you just said that he was radicalized here in the United States. So is it our understanding that the issue, his intent happened here? This was not something he came to the United States with an intent to carry out attacks like this?
Well, we know that when Joe Biden left the White House, he left us with a 1.5 million case backlog in asylum claims. And individuals are required.
Sorry, did you just hear that? His government left the Trump administration 1.5 million asylum claims. So unless you press Control All, approve, the United States government is going to be tied up in asylum vetting or verifications maybe for the next 20 years, because I don't know how quickly they can get through 1.5 million applications. Now, when President Trump says we're putting all immigration from certain third world countries on hold, the usual suspects jump out onto the media and say racist, bigot. He's doing it again. You don't hear all of these coming out of their mouths about how there's a backlog of 1.5 million applications on just asylum applicants. Okay, you haven't gone through the other cases that are either on appeal or there are other things that are going on. So essentially, the United States Immigration Services could be tied down with backlogs for another 20 years, and it wouldn't even be done. That's my assumption, okay? If you know the math, if you know anyone who works in immigration services, then let them correct me. But I think that at the rate at which government services work, maybe 20 years is me being very optimistic. All right, so if they're not going to do a Control All, approve, then I think you're looking at maybe 30 years. Meanwhile, there are other people who want to come into the country, and these backlogs are going to keep any of that from happening. All right? It's insane.
Required under a law and under policy to check in every single year when they have asylum in this country, and that wasn't being done. These individuals that were brought in and then vetted on information that was gathered by the Biden administration that wasn't thorough. And so now we're completely changing that since President Trump has been in the White House. And since I've been at DHS, we're using biometric information. We're using those social media platforms and looking at what they're saying and doing, and making sure that we have a government, when a country is sending us someone, we have a government that is stable in that country that can actually share information with us. How do we vet someone?
Yeah, so one of the problems with countries that are facing this permanent ban by President Trump is that many of them don't have the infrastructure to share things like criminal records and history and everything else from these applicants. It's hard to vet these people. All right. When you live in a first world country like the United States, and it's easy for an agency to do something called a background check. Okay, you guys know about it. I'm saying this for the benefit of those who don't live in the United States. When you do a background check, it essentially is access into the public database of records that connect to your profile. And they do a background check to know if you've ever had a criminal conviction, if you committed a crime, or if there are outstanding warrants for your arrest, what's your credit rating, your credit score. Like, all of these things are out there. But in third world countries, they don't exist. And so whenever you find President Trump saying things like this, and then you have the usual suspects, oh, he's racist, they don't talk about these things. And so you're trying to vet people from a third world country like Afghanistan. They do their best to kind of work on the reason why this person should be considered to be immigrated over to the United States. And then they keep blowing a gasket. Now, Ahmad Shah Mohibi is an Afghan national who tells us his own vetting story. So when you hear what he says, and then you figure out what the Biden administration did, maybe it will cause you to rip your hair out like the Biden administration royally screwed the pooch. So let's listen to Ahmad in the next video.
Through the same process, but here's the thing. A U.S. Commanding General recommended me. I had 45 letters of recommendation. I went through a clearance process, even though everybody knew me, but I had to wait 3 years to get my visa.
Yeah.
While we have an open border, we have guys like them, put them on a plane, bring them to the U.S. What do you expect? This has to be, and it has been always a bipartisan problem. It's not a Democratic problem, Republican problem. You look, Bush started the war. President Obama, he surged it. President Trump made a deal with the Taliban. President Biden, he just exited in a most shameful, chaotic.
Yeah, so I think the way he feels is the way a lot of immigrants feel. Why would you open borders? Okay, so let's back up a little bit. He just explained what he went through to get his own vetting done. He had to wait 3 years. These guys under Joe Biden surged onto an airplane, a carrier jet. The strongest person to the front of the line won, and they wound up in the US. And then the Biden administration lied through their teeth, claiming that they were vetted. If they were vetted, they would have stayed 3 years before coming into the United States. They came in by simply surging a plane. Now, when you hear his story, Ahmed's story, and you see what happened in Afghanistan and how these individuals, the one who was planning a bombing in Fort Worth, and the other guy who shot the 2 National Guardsmen, and you know that there were over 30,000 of them that came in under Joe Biden, that should concern you, all right? And you still have CNN trying to run cover for the Biden administration, say, no, well, this approval was done. The asylum approval for this guy who shot the National Guardsman was approved under the Trump administration. No, he made his application during the Biden years, and then eventually it got approved. So it wasn't Trump who approved his asylum application. Like, we keep seeing this insanity play out. I'm just frustrated, guys. I don't know if you feel the same way too. All right. Now, when these immigrants aren't planning to bomb American citizens or cities, or they aren't planning to attack servicemen on American soil, they're stealing. Like we see in the Somali Medicaid fraud and fake companies case that we're seeing.
11 Investigates exposes yet another state program designed to help people in need being ransacked by alleged fraud. AJ Legault continues to follow where your tax dollars are going in his multi-year investigation, Recovery Inc.
So there's this company that built under my insurance named Action Therapy LLC. They're based in Minnesota.
A Minnesota man takes to TikTok in a series of videos.
Y'all just look at the numbers.
And he emails Care 11 Investigates alleging Medicaid fraud.
They're billing. Never been there before. Never even heard of it until recently.
Muhammad Ali said he'd never heard of Action Therapy until he requested his insurance billing records. His Medicaid coverage is through taxpayer-funded Hennepin Health. When he got his records, he discovered in just 9 months, between August of 2024 and May 2025, Action Therapy billed $211,000. It was not all approved, but the records show they were paid nearly $85,000, he says, for doing nothing.
They run up them digits, man.
Muhammad currently lives in Kenya, but still questioned the charges in his name. Abbas Farah with Action Therapy emailed him, blaming the billing on a clerical mix-up and promised a full internal review.
Back-to-back days.
So, who is Action Therapy? When Care 11 first started investigating back in June, this was their website. It claimed they are psychotherapists. Right away, we found red flags. Action Therapy's website listed their non-working phone number as 012-345-6789.
Guys, look, these people are so brazen in their stealing and corruption because they know that the Democrats will run cover for them even when they're caught. Last week, we covered a Democrat judge who threw out a case against a Somali immigrant who defrauded the state by several millions of dollars, with the jury ruling or deciding that he was guilty, and the judge says, "Nah, there's a problem with this case. I'm throwing it out and I'm acquitting him." Right? They count on Democrats to do that. So that's why whenever you see stuff like this, the brazen corruption, Tim Walz is out there. Okay, he's out there telling us that there's nothing to see here. There's nothing to see here. Okay, there's all of the accusations against the Somali population is racism. Here's Tim Walz, his own city, okay, has been implicated on this particular issue of Somali Medicaid fraud.
Terror group linked to Al-Qaeda. Justice Department says it will take a look. National correspondent Jeff Paul has details.
They're calling for an investigation. 4 Minnesota Congress members addressing the state's U.S. attorney, demanding answers after a report claimed taxpayer dollars were ending up in the hands of Somali terror group Al-Shabaab.
If you're paying taxes for services you expect and things you expect your state government to provide, those taxes should not be going to a terrorist group in a foreign country.
House Majority Whip Tom Emmer is referencing this article written by urban policy magazine City Journal, which is published by a conservative think tank, the Manhattan Institute.
So I covered this story last week, and it turns out that some of the money that is being stolen from American taxpayers is being shipped off to terrorists in Somalia. Look, people on the left know how to organize around stupid causes like No Kings protests and so on. People on the right need to start speaking up. We've had how many cases of corruption? We saw the case where the judge dismissed the case against the Somali business that was essentially defrauding taxpayers last week. Or is it on the crime front, the violent crime front, where judges wouldn't imprison a man who had been arrested 73 times, and then he winds up getting on a plane or a train attacking a woman, dousing her with an accelerant, and lighting her on fire. These are the kinds of things that we keep seeing, and we're wondering whether we're living in an upside-down world. All right. These people just depend on Democrats to continue to run cover for them, to continue to let them off without any consequences. And honestly, they just need to be called out. Now, let me know your thoughts in the chat about this. I'm going to be taking one last look at the chat before we wrap up. Now, here's Tim Walz. He wasn't on the previous video. I thought he showed up, but he makes a glorious appearance on this one.
Speaking of the Somali community, President Trump is targeting them and your state in part. He's citing fraud as the reason for his crackdown. Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can. But to demonize an entire community on the actions of a few, it's lazy. And as you heard Senator Kelly say, this president has cut a lot of inspector generals. He's cut programs that could help us tackle this on. So we'll take it on. We'll put folks in jail. I don't care what your nationality is. I don't care what your religion is, your color. If you're committing crimes, these are programs that were meant to serve students with autism.
So when a report comes out to say that a large portion of this community that you're rabidly defending have been defrauding the taxpayer by claiming that their kids are autistic when they are not, the organizations that are meant to steward these funds are in cahoots with this same community, and your response is that's lazy. That's a lazy assessment. Okay. I don't know about you. I would be outraged if I were a citizen of Minnesota. Like, what are we doing here? I'll be outraged. I'll be upset, to be honest with you. Okay. Now, on this channel, if you haven't noticed yet, we don't use profanity. All right, but that doesn't mean that that we're not upset about things. And I try to kind of break down these things logically. For example, we try to do a common sense breakdown of these stories. Like, okay, if you can't verify someone who is where they came from, okay, so I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. If you can't verify who someone is, where they came from, or what they've done, all right, and your own state can't even stop fake therapy companies from billing hundreds of thousands of dollars to Medicaid, all right, that's not a well-run state. That's not compassion. That's stupidity, all right. And of course, to continue championing open borders and attacking Trump at every turn. Trump says this community has been highlighted because there's a lot of fraud. There's more fraud per capita happening among this community. And your response is Trump is being lazy, or he's being racist, or he's targeting the Somali community. All right. That is lazy. And unfortunately, these are the people who are speaking to the voting public who tend to vote Democrat. So let me know in the chat, should the U.S. pause or radically cut back refugee intake from failed states until the U.S. is actually able to fix vetting and fraud? Or is that going too far in your view? Let me know in the chat. Now, before I finalize in the chat, let's do a quick recap of today's live stream. In this live stream, we watched Democrats crash out as CNN handed Trump another win on gas prices. And with the record Black Friday sales, it totally blows their narrative about Trump destroying the economy out of the water. While the same media machine that sold us the Biden is robust and high-functioning stories, suddenly discovered Trump's cognitive decline. I don't know whether they used an electron microscope to find it, but they found it, and they magically believe that his cognitive decline is the size of Mount Everest, and that we're all blind if we can't see it. We also saw leftists and Democrat politicians smear the National Guard and ICE, even as troops bleed in DC, and anti-ICE mobs also brawled with police in New York. Now, while all of this happened on this live stream, I hope we're able to pull back the curtain on Afghan refugees, the vetting lies, Somali fraud rings, the Medicaid scams, illegal social security numbers. We couldn't take all of the stories because our time essentially is up. But the question again to the political class is, are they willing to fix it, or are they going to continue to attack anyone who calls for it to be fixed and calling them racist and xenophobic? At the end of the day, this isn't complicated, all right? We've seen Trump's policies line up with law, order, accountability, and economically, it's doing what he said it would do. At least for now, it's looking like his predictions are working. Drill, baby, drill. Oil prices go down. Quality of living goes up for Americans because they pay less at the pump, pay less at the grocery stores. All right. All of these things are things we're beginning to see right now. His policies are lining up with his promises, but Democrats seem to be pushing for policies that line up with chaos, fraud, and endless excuses, like we just ended with the very excellent Tim Walz. All right, so we're going to be wrapping up with your chat. So let's know your thoughts in the chat. I will be reading the rest of the chat. Let's go. Spot 3 End Plays, who's chatting from Twitch, I believe, says, "Yep, agreed. These type of people care about one thing: spreading their ideology around the world." Okay, I think I've read that before. Joe, he also said Joe Biden saying it was safe and secure. It was, but only for Joe Biden. Everyone else, it was dangerous. Okay, I think he's talking about the border? You know, I've talked about so many things. All right, Spartan 3 and Plays says we will never recover from these asylum seekers. Yeah, with over 1.5 million asylum seekers, I'm not sure that we're going to see the end of this. And Democrats want a control all approve scenario to play out. They want everyone to be approved and let in so that they can basically tell the immigrants, we did this. So if you want to see more of this, keep voting for us. All right. Now, unfortunately, many people are going to continue to vote Democrat, irrespective of the fact that Democrats are essentially setting their country on fire. All right. Spartan Plays says, I do too. CNN just lies. It's shocking they are still doing, even though they are losing viewers. CNN, TDSBC, these are not businesses. They are activist organizations. We did see that USAID was pushing massive taxpayer funds into some of these outlets that were not profitable. They only exist to attack and bash Trump. That's all they exist for. Canary Kings, longtime viewer and the one person who has been supportive of the live stream from day one, the day one viewer says, to be fair, he did say he will jail any criminal regardless of race, religion, and creed. Yeah, it's like putting a bumper sticker, honk if you love Jesus. Many people honk, but they don't really love Jesus, okay? So that's a bumper sticker take, in my opinion. I don't believe any promises any Democrat makes until I see them actually doing the things that they promised. Canary King, stereotyping an entire nation of people of over 20 million by the actions of less than 100 is not supported by data, percentages, or good taste. It isn't. However, I don't think President Trump is saying deport everyone. He's saying we're taking a second look at everyone. All right. Nigeria is a great country with good people, but the people who have been highlighted for, who have been at the front lines of media scrutiny all over the world have been the criminals, the criminal elements either in our government or those who, the Nigerian prince scams. Yeah. Okay. Those guys are more popular than me, right? Than people like me. So whenever someone meets me and they're like, you're Nigerian, and they do a double take, I'm not surprised, because the people with the bad press are the ones who outshine those of us who have great morals, great work ethic, and we simply want to contribute to the communities where we live. Okay, we're not takers, we're givers. So I can tell, I can see the point that you're making, but sadly, when you have a population that tends to, show the best of itself rather than promoting that shows the worst of itself and promotes it, and rather than promoting the best of itself, you have the Ilhan Omars going out there and poo-pooing on the Constitution and on white men and basically saying all kinds of horrific nonsense, and she's not censored on, like, all of these things happen, and you begin to ask yourself a lot of questions. All right. So I totally see what you're saying, but then again, you won't blame anyone for taking a second look when there's so much fraud happening in these communities. If those communities step out to say, all right, we disavow these people. Okay, so do I still have this video? I didn't play this video, and I'm trying to rush because I need to pick up my daughter from school. She had a late school. All right. The video is not included. It might be included. I might cover it in one of my one takes. All right. But there were a bunch of Afghans who did a kind of not a parade, but it was more like a display on the streets of Washington, D.C. to say, we're not with that lunatic. Okay. We ourselves have suffered at the hands of people like him. All right. We are different from them. You don't have that happening with the Somali community. I haven't seen it yet. If you have, send me a video. All right. I know very little about this community, but I do know that broad generalizations are a bad idea. I agree. Okay. Now, while I'm reading out the chat, okay, let me know if you agree with the comment made in the chat. If you agree or you disagree, just let me know about that in the chat. Okay. Trump's most important policies are around China, tariffs, and repatriation of the industrial manufacturing sector. Those are good policies. Those will make America strong. He should stay on them. But you know what? There are other things that are going on under the hood that he's talking about, like the whole immigration catastrophe. If it's not addressed, it's going to be catastrophic in the next 10, 20 years, because the result, you're going to see those results show up in grand style. And yes, some of us may not be around when that happens, but does that mean we should leave our kids with a pile of dog shit, when we could start cleaning it up now, start talking about it and insisting that things be done the right way now? All right. I like what Ahmed said in the video. He basically was outraged. Said, I had to do all this, wait for 3 years, and these guys just push their way to the front of the line, jump on a plane, fly into the United States, and then within a few years, mess up the goodwill of the American people towards Afghanistan's or Afghani people by killing a National Guardsman, one in critical condition, and then another guy in a different part of the United States planning to do a bombing attack. Come on, it's these kind of things that give immigrants a bad look. All right, yeah, and strengthening border control. Yeah, is continuation of what you were saying, Canary King. Canary King again. Trump was distracted in his first term and did not get his infrastructure plan. Yes, he did not, and he was being frustrated at every turn. All right. Oh, is that the time? Speaking of Nigeria, Trump needs to hurry up and invade because there's more bad news. Yeah, there is. My sister was giving me some bad news. Okay, so maybe tonight All right. If you're still watching, please promise me that you're going to be okay. Don't promise, but do your best to be here tonight. We could talk about some of those things. I heard some things. Maybe we can talk about it tonight if we can. But there's other news to cover, and I would like for us to just go over them. All right. I agree with the comments in the chat. Okay. Well, I do. All right. I have to rush off. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Spartan Plays 1. We're chatting for the first time. It was great having you. Canary King, as always, thank you for being in the chat. We're going to be back again tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. I was late today. We're discussing certain things connected to the funeral of my mom. So I was on a phone call that kind of took out of my prep time and I was behind. So I'm sorry about that. I'll be back tonight and I hope you will consider joining. We're going to be diving more into some of these stories, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day until we meet again at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for hanging out and have a great day. Same to you, Canary King.
Welcome to Headlines and History, live news reactions and your views. We're about to go live soon, so grab your spot and get ready for a sharp, balanced take on today's biggest news stories with a dash of historical insight. Stay tuned. Each week, we tackle the headlines that matter: politics, economics, global events with a balanced lens. We'll react live, tie today's stories to historical moments, and spotlight your views in the chat. From trade talks echoing the 1990s to crises recalling 2008, we're here to unpack it all. Your voice drives the show. Share your thoughts or historical parallels in the live chat, and we'll dive into the best ones. It's news, context, and community all in 1 hour. We're moments away from launching Headlines and History. Stick around for live reactions, historical nuggets, and your chance to chime in. Hit the notification bell, prep your comments, and let's make sense of the news together. See you soon.